Tomorrow is the day when Naafiri is getting released in live servers. Question is, will she be perma-banned or she will be open 24/7 and people will be able actually to play her? So the question remains, Naafiri, 200 years champion or perfectly designed? Video by Vars, so let's see.
Today, my friends, we gather to celebrate this momentous occasion. Nature is healing. What I find both ironic and hilarious is that a while ago, I remember someone from Riot justifying that the reason behind making so many humanoid champions as of late is due to the player base, namely China, being more responsive to those kinds of designs than monster champions. Yet
Yes, because in China, lots of monsters are banned. It's been censorship by the Great Chinese Communist Party. So, as we can see, Trash in here, he has a skeleton. He had bones. Chat, believe it or not, but bones are banned in China. So when I was playing World of Warcraft, there's a specific race called Undead, which means you're a fucking zombie. You have rotting flesh, you have bones. In China, bones are hidden. Bones are censored. So you're just playing a zombie without any bones. Trash in China is like Unbound Trash. He doesn't have any bones. So you know, Riot kinda appealing to China because Riot owned by Tencent. Tencent is Chinese conglomerate. So technically Chinese overlords. So of course Riot is focusing towards the Chinese market.
Yet when you take a look at Naafiri's gameplay trailer and cinematic, the amount of views it got in the first week is incredible. I went back through previous champion videos and they barely came close to that kind of overnight performance. Then again,
yeah, because that's a Darkin. Everyone is hyped for Darkin. Darkins are amazing.
I'm not sure if it's being well received over in the East, but point being, I think I speak for most people when I say Naafiri is a breath of fresh air. The first.
Also, in 2023, that was the best cinematic we received from Riot. Because we have to take into consideration, we got new season cinematic, and then we had Naafiri cinematic, which was 100 times better.
Genuine monster champion since freaking Born. And before you say Bel'Veth or Vex, Vex is a Yordle and Bel'Veth is a sham of a monster, and I will die on this hill. Speaking of how long it's been, we haven't had a Darkin champion in over 6 years, with the last one being Kane, who's only a Darkin half of the time, making Naafiri the first true Darkin champion since Aatrox, and one that I'm very excited but also nervous about. Step aside Warwick, we're about to get a second Dog Wolf champion, and she's just as menacing if not more. Today.
What do you mean second? But what about Nessus? What about Nessus? What the dog doing? Hello?
Today we'll be getting a first impression of Naafiri's abilities, playstyle, and design, with the big question in my head being if the novelty of her design is blinding us to what may very well be yet another 200 years champion. Time to find out. As a bit of preliminary context, the Darkin champion line operates a bit differently from your other species, in that their trademark attributes within their gameplay influenced and inspired by their thematic properties. For the sake of continuity, I'm mostly referring to original Darkins. While Vars is technically a Darkin, he doesn't follow the same rules as Aatrox.
Yeah, Vars doesn't count because Vars' story was retconned. They made him a Darkin years into the League of Legends story. So technically it doesn't count because Vars was one of the first champions that got released. Shit, he was quite popular in Season 3, by the way.
And Rost. If I remember correctly, Vars was retconned into being a Darkin.
Yep.
Anyways, looking at both Aatrox and Rost, the gist of the lore behind the race is that Darkins are corrupted god warriors who were imprisoned into weapons. Those weapons would then take possession of something and give rise to the champions we know today. Aatrox's weapon is of course his towering greatsword. Rost embodies a scythe, and I know I wasn't going to include Vars, but his weapon is a bow. Naafiri's weapon is a dagger, and if you take a look at the Darkin page on the wiki, there's a lot more members of the Darkin race that occupy.
Bullcox looks absolutely amazing because he's rocking a staff. Bro, I feel like it was I feel like he is in the card game. There it is. There it is, chat. This guy is rocking a staff. This guy looks absolutely menacing. Lord knows I am waiting for Balcox to be released, and I am waiting for Zolani to be released. This will be fun. It's like edgy version of a Mawakai, you know? This shit is scary.
By different weapons. We have a spear, staff, orb, harpoon, shield, ballista, fan, harp, halberd, and
Naga, chat, if you don't know, Darkins are being enchanted into weapons. Whatever touches the weapon is being possessed. So, Aatrox getting all of the warriors that he kills in the battlefield. Varus missed the memo. Instead of double A, he went with the double gay. Rust, he has some guy from Ionia and he is struggling. Yeah, he has Kane from Ionia, he's struggling to possess Kane. It is what it is. Naafiri, a pack of hounds. Naga. best part, I'm pretty sure there has to be a picture. Naganeka is a ballista, is a huge ballista. But if my lore knowledge is impeccable, the creature who touched that ballista was a goddamn chicken. I'm getting a flashbang, chat, prepare for flashbang, but that is a ballista who was touched by a chicken. So yeah, I'm waiting for the chicken as well. Chicken is going to be fun.
And Chain Sickle. This is partly why people are so excited to see the Darkin line undergoing more development. There's an actual thematic MO to the champions, unlike other regions where it seems like Riot just throws whatever on whoever and calls it a day. Playstyle-wise, Darkins have two major shared elements throughout their gameplay, the first and more notable one being their battle healing capabilities. Aatrox and Rost recover health equal to a portion of all damage dealt to champions, incentivizing a very bruiser-heavy playstyle. Second, true to their unquenchable thirst for battle, Darkins excel at long-term fighting, due in part to their in-combat sustain as well as their DPS and/or uptime, resulting
Current Darkins. The Darkins we have right now. Sure, Zolani is going to be released. Zolani is the one who created the blood magic, so naturally she will have something with the healing. Naafiri? Sure, she gets a bit of a heals. Varus? I don't think Varus is healing. If we're looking into Balcox, who will be Maokai version 2, we know that Maokai is healing. Maybe that will do the trick. But Naganeka, who got possessed a ballista and chicken, I don't see how that thing is healing. Just saying.
in them being a high priority threat, as the longer it takes for you to kill them, the more dangerous they become. Naafiri's moveset is also in accordance with that doctrine, but housing herself within a pack of wolves instead of a bipedal creature gives off the very conspicuous impression that instead of fighting with overwhelming brute force, she prefers to play the game of numbers.
That's 1. The score is 1-0. She has only 1 item.
This impression that instead of fighting with overwhelming brute force, she prefers to play the game
Holy shit, the damage. Only 1 item.
of numbers. Oh, by the way, seeing as this is a first impressions video, I'm actually taking a look at her abilities before she's even live on the PvE, which
Yeah, but it was kinda cringe. Killing the egg was kinda cringe. So she has that one-shot burst potential, but afterwards it's kinda cringe. Gotcha.
means I don't have all the attributes and whatnot available, so my speculation on things will be affected by premature information. Her passive is We Are More. Throughout the course of a match, she occasionally spawns a packmate that behaves very similarly to Lamb's Wolf, following her around and responding off her attacks. Anytime the original attacks, they also attack. A major
The Lamb's Wolf. The quick can it be attacked? Because if he's saying Lamb's Wolf cannot be attacked. I was under the impression that Naafiri's companions are going to be like Yorick's minions or Malzahar's minions. But maybe they are untargetable?
major distinction between Naafiri's packmates and Wolf, though, is that said packmates are corporeal entities, meaning they have their own health bars and thus are targetable and killable. So I suppose
That's the answer. Okay, so not Kindra's Wolf, Yorick's minions.
it's more akin to Yorick's ghouls in that regard.
There we
It
go.
has been a minute since we saw a Swarm type champion. Understandably, they're kind of hard to design. If you watch my video on summons, you'll get a better idea of what I mean by that. This kind of ability poses a very significant question. If the packmates can be damaged and killed, are they capable of fully body blocking skill shots? If you take a look at the gameplay clips on screen, you'll notice that auto attacks work on packmates, but they don't have a conventional health bar. Instead, it's like a V. Given they take damage from abilities and whatnot, it would make sense for them to have collision detection, and considering towards the mid to late game she spawns up to like half a dozen of them, I wonder how that would come into play when fighting against auto attackers or champs with single target skill shots like Ezreal. Would they be completely useless against her? When Naafiri attacks, her packmates are standing very close to her, so I'd imagine AoE attacks wouldn't be compromised too much, but unless you use champion only targeting, I can imagine it would be very easy for you to accidentally misclick on one of her dogs. Even if that weren't
No, I wouldn't say that's the case because there is a squiggly line on the keyboard right above the tab key and below escape key that by default allows you to focus only champions. So if you're fighting into Naafiri, you hold that key, her minions will not be targeted, it will be targeting only Naafiri. So that's, what the fuck, why is he feeding? So that's one way of dealing with that issue.
the case, Ezreal mains are gonna have one hell of a time dealing with this champion. That aside, though it looks like it can be really obnoxious, the premise of We Are More is a simple one. More dogs means more damage, so the idea is to fight when you have a lot of them and to avoid fighting when you don't. I like its concept. In typical champion fashion, everyone needs at least one damaging ability, and once again, Naafiri's Darkin Daggers is a simple one. On first cast, she throws a dagger in a straight line that deals damage over time to target's hit. She can recast it for the same effects. Anyone struck by the second dagger who is already bleeding is dealt the remaining damage immediately, plus a bit extra equal to their missing health. Additionally, Naafiri heals for every champion hit. So there's the Darkin battle healing aspect, and pack mates will automatically start attacking the first enemy hit, prioritizing champions, very reminiscent of the interaction Yorick's Morning Mist has with his ghouls. More than just basic damage and wave clear, Darkin Dagger gives Naafiri a veritable neutral game. The cast range appears to be no more than maybe 650 units, but with the healing her for every champion hit, applying damage over time, being a penetrating skill shot meaning you can damage champions through minions, and sending her dogs after champions, Naafiri has a neutral game. She can pressure from a distance. I can very easily see her having the option to go top or mid. I believe Riot intends for her to be a jungler, but
How old is this video? 3 days ago, but Riot said it's going to be a mid laner. Riot's initial idea was sending Naafiri into jungle, then they swapped for no apparent reason into middle. But obviously she's going to be a jungle.
a neutral game allows you to flex into solo lanes, especially top lane. I really hope Darkin Dagger is more of a setup tool, not actually.
No, she's going to suck big balls, big hairy Warwick's balls in top side, that's all I can say, because that's assassin. You pick any assassin into top lane, all you need is a bit of armor, and you are useless as an assassin. No, that's a suicide.
Actual damage, because imagine being constantly pelted down by dogs over and over in lane. See, what keeps Yorick from being problematic, aside from the fact that no one plays him, is that it takes a long time for him to stack up ghouls for Morning Mist to actually be a threat. Naafiri's pack mates also take time to spawn, but even if she doesn't have any, being her main DPS tool, or at least one of them since Darkins are known for having multiple, I really hope they balance her Q so that the bleed damage, percent missing health.
Fucking pants are shagging straight up Giga Chat with this fucking thing. He sits there unfucking faced with this name. I need to rename myself in the east with this name. Giga Chat.
Damage and healing part are not that strong, and for you to get the most out of her Q, you need pack mates. Although that boils down to numbers, they can adjust accordingly. Onto her W, Hound's Pursuit. Never a modern day champion without a dash, am I right? After a brief delay, Naafiri and her packmates dash towards an enemy, stopping at the first champion hit, damaging and slowing them on arrival. The range of her dash increases based on her ultimate's rank, and her dogs become untargetable and increase the damage of her dash with each one. So again, there's a focus on pack size, building up your army of hounds to beat down the enemy Pikmin style. On a side note, I'm actually curious how many dogs you can have at one time. Is it infinite, or does it cap out at like 6? If it's infinite, that would be a nightmare. Just to reiterate, I'm making this video before she's even out on the PvE, so if any of my questions are answered immediately, I'll have—
You're making this video before she's out on the PvE, but footage is from the PvE. Okay, maybe he had a script. Okay, I got so fucked up in here, I got so confused.
have my editor put it on screen. In any case, every instance where her W is used, it seems to automatically home in on an enemy champion, as evident by a mark above the target of interest and what appears to be an indicator of the direction from which the enemy champion can expect Naafiri to appear from. At the same time, the description says that she stops on the first enemy champion hit, implying the dash is free targeted. So I'm not particularly sure if the dash will behave like Caitlyn's ult, where it originally targets an enemy champion but can be intercepted by a different one. If it does indeed behave like that, I think that would be the first non-free target.
It's capped to 3 dogs without her ultimate and 7 dogs on the max level ultimate. Oh, okay, fair enough.
Dash that can be body blocked by someone. There's a small channel at the beginning of the attack too, but it doesn't look like it has any functional purpose aside from letting the opponent know they're about to experience a Five Nights at Freddy's moment. The dash distance, scaling with their ult rank, sounds interesting though. I mean, it makes sense given the hunting instinct and speed of wolves. It's at least more believable for Naafiri to have a super long range dash as opposed to someone like Zeri. So far, her kit doesn't have any obtuse abilities from conceptual level. Her passive gives her minions that do their own bit of damage, Q's a neutral poke tool that can be used to direct those minions, and her W is a dash to get in melee range. Part of me expected her to be this monstrous abomination, which, I mean, she is, but I was more referring to like her gameplay. Eviscerate is also uncharacteristically simple. It's a front charge attack very similar to Lilia's W, whose name shall not be verbally spoken no matter how much you degens in the comments want me to.
What's wrong with saying that name?
In addition, on arrival, all injured packmates restore to full HP, though they don't appear to affect the damage of this attack whatsoever. Again, an unusually simple ability for a modern day champion. Now, I'm aware the design team stressed they wanted to make a beginner-friendly champion, but after seeing her gameplay trailer, I was like, how is this in any way beginner-friendly? It looks like another obnoxious 200 years champ with a billion dogs running you down. Although now, I understand what they meant.
Yeah, because what Riot did is they ran into an issue where League wasn't growing as it was growing before, which means that one of the main reasons for that is because it was difficult for new players to get into the game. You might be asking why. Well, because there's over 160 champions. Each of them have at least 4 or 5 abilities. Some of them have fucking 8 abilities. So as a new player, you have to learn all of those single abilities to understand the match, understand the macro, understand what the hell is going on. And when the single ability takes 5 pages, you know it's going to be rather difficult. So that's why I finally realized maybe we don't need a 200-year game design champion for this game. Maybe we need to go back to the roots. Maybe we need something simple, you know?
Visually, it looks intimidating and freaky, but experientially, it isn't, and I think their ultimate behaves a lot like Aatrox's. Call of the Pack is a steroid, something we haven't seen in a while unless you count Bel'Veth or Cassante, but they have their own conditions. For a duration, she gains bonus out of combat movement speed and unobstructed vision in a wide area, though she doesn't gain true sight of invisible targets. Also, upon dealing damage to an enemy champion, she gets a big shield, while gaining more pack mates and then empowering all of them for a shorter time frame. If she scores a takedown on an enemy champion, she gets to refresh the duration of all effects of her ultimate one time only. You guys know me, I'm generally not a fan of reset mechanics, but in this case, I can tolerate Naafiri's for the same reason I can with Aatrox. It's not a reset in the sense that you can recast the...
I expect to see the same thing on live servers tomorrow when Naafiri is released. Ezreal just got one-shotted by Naafiri. I don't know what is happening. Why doesn't that thing die? Asking the real questions.
The ability and pentakill everyone. It's more of an extension, like Master Yi's Highlander or Vayne's Final Hour.
Yep.
In my opinion, those are fine. Fights can sometimes drag on a long time, especially if everyone's spread out, so having that extension maintains the champion's uptime if and when they have to fight another opponent. I'm not sure to what extent the buffs to her packmates will be, since again, I don't have the numbers yet, but usually steroid ultimates give a lot more stats than just movement speed and vision. I know she gets a shield, but that shield better be a very big one. Aatrox's World Ender gives him a surge of decaying movement speed right out the gate whether he is or isn't in combat, and then gains 20 to 45% total AD based on rank, so at level 16 or beyond, Aatrox can easily get upwards of 200 attack damage at the press of a button, as well as getting 45% increased healing to his already very high combat sustain.
Yep.
Comparatively, Naafiri's ultimate feels somewhat underwhelming. My assumption is that the real power of Call of the Pack will come from the extra moves you spawn, kind of like how Yorick's pressure skyrockets with this maiden, but we'll have to see. Okay, so at first glance, I'm genuinely surprised at how mild she is. On one hand, I was optimistic about her kit in light of the aforementioned constraints around Darkin champions, but this is almost too tame. The last champion to have abilities that were short, sweet, and to the point was Vex. I still want to know what kind of interactions will stem from her packmates given she can spawn so many of them, but if my assumptions are true and they can fully block skill shots, anyone whose entire game plan hinges on a single target ability like Blitz Hook, Ezreal Q, Morgana Binding, and whatnot is going to be completely dominated by her.
Oh yeah, imagine. Realistically, if they have their own HP and they can be targeted like Yorick's minions, technically that's how it should work, no? Because if you see Yorick with his minions and you're playing Blitzcrank and you're trying to grab Yorick for god knows what reason, but still, you're trying to grab Yorick, and you can easily hook one of his minions. Pretty sure that's what's going to happen here as well.
It feels almost unfair. Prior to Naafiri, summons were either attached to a champion's ultimate and therefore unable to be a constant presence throughout a match, or they were attached to a very strict set of rules or activation requirements that made it so you wouldn't have an entourage of secret servicemen to get down Mr. President you on a moment's notice, except for maybe Malzahar, but his voidlings don't even last that long. Naafiri will be the first champion to passively spawn persistently tangible and interactable minions. Based on the way she's meant to be played with her very rushed down type ultimate and death by 1000 cuts playstyle, my guess is she will play either as a full damage assassin skirmisher hybrid or behave like a diver. She has no hard crowd control, which means the former is more likely to happen, but I feel like there's definitely the possibility for you to play Bruiser on her. For one, I can already tell Black Cleaver will be immensely useful on her. Each of her packmates can apply a stack of armor shred unless you forget the damage over time on Q. She'll have no trouble getting the full shred off on her target, and being fully physical damage necessitates tank busting of some kind, especially...
Okay. Now that you put it this way, if your minions are applying your actives, I am taking back whatever I said and Naafiri topside. No, Naafiri topside will be sus if you build her assassin, but if you build her bruiser... What if you build her bruiser? with Sunfire and Black Cleaver. Just an idea.
Especially because outside of her missing health damage, Naafiri has no tank busting whatsoever. No true damage, no percent max or current health, only percent missing health, which is less useful against tanks who seldom drop to low health.
But yeah, we gotta keep it real. This dash, this point and click dash, kinda cringe.
Missing health damage, Naafiri has no tank busting
What the fucking range?
whatsoever. No true damage, no percent max or current health, only percent missing health, which is less useful against tanks who seldom drop to low health. If we include the possibility of her being in the thick of battle, she almost has to run Bruiser. That's my initial thoughts on her in terms of playstyle. Overall though, aside from the whole body blocking thing with her packmates, my only other concern is her somewhat stat checky nature. If Hound's Pursuit is a chase type dash like Lee Sin Q or Nocturnal, then once you get in range, there's not a whole lot of skill expression involved besides aiming your Q and E, neither of which will be a challenge against a slowed enemy. Optimistically speaking, balancing her will come down to numbers. However, she looks extremely prone to snowballing in either direction. Think about it, she's a high mobility rushdown champion who overwhelms you through literal pack size. She has no semblance of team utility, no hard crowd control, no buffs to her teammates, nothing. All she is damage. If she gets
Like straight up, that is a dog version of Mastery. That's what I'm seeing in here.
fed, she'll tear through everyone. If she falls behind, I can't think of a scenario where she can come back. So in this regard, I think she's going to be more of an assassin than a bruiser. That being said, she does have a neutral game through her Q, so she's not all or nothing. One thing's for certain though, visually this thing is a beauty. The effects make her look really intimidating, especially her ultimate. The feeling of being rushed down by a pack of bloodthirsty wolves is almost as terrifying as an 800 movement speed Warwick yeeting himself right at you. They spared no expense on that front. And as an additional perk, you can pet her. Yes, you can physically pet Naafiri and give her belly rubs. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, this is the best part. This is the best part about this champion. But no, I would say there's one thing scarier than a fed full movement speed Warwick coming at you, and then Naafiri is playing ADC and seeing that enemy team has a Rengar who's 20 and 0 and seeing Rengar's eyes of his ultimate above your head. That's kind of scary as well.
Alone makes it perfectly designed, let's be real. I'm excited. Like many others, I'm a huge Darkin fan, so I'm definitely gonna try her out when I get the chance. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your first impressions on Naafiri in the comments down below, whether you're looking forward to her release or not. As always, if you enjoyed the video, it would be awesome if you left a like and subscribed. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my other first impressions if you haven't yet. For now though, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
I guess we'll see tomorrow, chat.